Hello, guys and gals. Thank you for joining me for another edition of This Old Guild. I'm Scotty, and this is a guild from 1975. It's an F212XL. I don't know if that means extra large, but it's kind of big. Anyways, looks like we're going to be doing a neck reset today unless I can figure out some other miracle to get this action down. It's at 9/64 on the bass side up here at the 12th fret, which is almost impossible to press down on. I mean, Hercules could do it, but check this out. They come in waves, like last week. Last week we had the 1940s Gibson J45s in, and this week it's all Stratocasters. We've got modern stuff, nothing vintage, nothing from the 60s or 70s. This is all just easy stuff, you know, setups, and we've got maple fretboards or Stratocaster shaped guitars, you know, they come in waves.
I'll start by scoring the lacquer line around the neck joint. What you don't see here is that I took it out to the garage and I brushed on lacquer retarder all along the heel and the little transition joints to soften the lacquer so that I could slice through it instead of chipping it off. With this amount of heat that I'm going to be using, these guilds have a tendency for the lacquer to flake off and be damaged and discolored. That's the reason I use the retarder. And I wait 6 or 7 hours to let it really soak in. And then I apply the heat. I loosen the fretboard extension with these palette knives. And then I heat the 14th and 15th fret and remove both of them. I'm going to be drilling holes and applying heat through both 14th and 15th fret. The reason for that is that Guild is notorious for putting glue between the cheeks of the neck heel and the body, and of course in the dovetail pocket itself between the male and female portions of the dovetail. You can see all the glue that they put into the fret slots as well. And it's a pretty hard glue, usually a PVA type of synthetic rubbery glue. Not good, but that's what they use. Okay, at the 15th fret, where we're trying to find the dovetail pocket, I'm going to go in 16 millimeters from the edge. The actual glue line is closer to 15 millimeters, but we don't want to actually drill into the neck block itself. We want to drill into the gap between the end of the dovetail and the neck block. And there's a hollowed out space there. I want to point the drill bit slightly towards center and slightly towards the head. If you don't find the pocket within the first half inch or so, just move over a centimeter or two and try another hole. I like putting boiling hot water down in the holes to get started. And then I'll actually add more water as I go. I use a pipette from Stumac. Now the 14th fret. This is a tricky area. I don't want to drill into the dovetail itself. I want to drill into the scooped out area in between the edge of the heel and the dovetail. And I want to drill 9 millimeters from the edge on both sides. And we'll look down the edge of the drill bit and make sure I'm not drilling into the body or drilling into the neck too far. I just want to angle it so that it kind of follows the joint between the neck heel and the side of the guitar. After about 15 minutes, 20 minutes of heating on this one, it came loose. I used the Stumac neck removal jig, help push the heel out, and with no damage to the lacquer, it's a success. This one appeared to be hide glue. There was PVA glue in the fret slots and hide glue in the dovetail. Clean it up while it's hot, and you can get the bulk of it this way. This neck had a multi-piece lamination. I think there's a maple strip down the center. So you don't want to sit there steaming it for an hour. I ended up using those electric heaters for about 15 minutes, and then I switched to steam because I wasn't getting enough. I wasn't loosening it enough with electricity alone. So a couple shots of steam right at the end prevents any serious blushing or damage to the lacquer or warping of the wood. It really worked out nice. Okay, now that the neck is off, I want to try to illustrate this a little bit better. Why I drilled the hole at the 14th fret to get the probe right here between the body and the cheek is because they glue the cheek to the side of the guitar. I drilled the 15th fret here to get closer to the dovetail itself, which is glued. You know, the female and male portion of the dovetail has glue in it, but they also put glue here. And that's why I pulled the 14th fret and the 15th fret and used the heaters and moved them around and all that. I also ended up shooting some steam in there to get it off because it wouldn't budge. And what do you know? Here's another recent shipment that just came in. The guitar tech that tried to pull the neck on this old Guild was basically flying blind. He didn't realize what the deal was, but he couldn't get it loose and he broke the neck. And you've seen me fix this kind of thing before, but he didn't even pull the 14th fret, he just pulled the 15th fret. But the cheeks are glued to the side, and these two holes are much too far away from the glue joint. So I'm gonna pull this fret out, drill the holes exactly like I just did in that one, and get the rest of this neck out of here. I strung it up just to see what it would be like beforehand, before I pull it. But yeah, that's why I do these videos, hopefully help someone out. Now I'll start reshaping the heel to come up with a new neck angle and lower action. This time I'm going to make a mark at 1 millimeter. That'll lower my action about 4/64ths of an inch, I'd say, and allow me to put in a taller saddle into the bridge, which is just what we normally want to see on a neck reset. I'll also make a 1 millimeter mark here on the heel cap. And since it's white, I'll just pencil it in with a mechanical pencil. I'll score the mahogany wood on either side of the heel. I'll also try to remove a little bit of the material off the bottom of this dovetail, because there's a weirdness in the neck. It's almost ski jumped, and I want to try to press that. I can usually get rid of that by heating the neck, the fretboard extension. This particular neck already had a relief cut. It was already scooped out on the inside where my drill bits went. You see that? So this one wasn't glued to the sides of the guitar as badly as some others. This only had a little bit of glue on the very outer edges of the heel. I'll take this piece of Lexan with 80 grit sandpaper and do 50 swipes. And I count all 50 swipes each side. That gives me the exact same amount of material removed on either side. And I don't have to sit here for an hour pulling sandpaper between the body and the neck. I don't put it onto the body, the neck that is, I don't put the neck onto the body till the very last couple swipes. You can see the truss rods right next to the fretboard extension. There's 2 truss rods on these 12 strings. There's also a hole through the bottom of the dovetail. I didn't do that. It's almost like they did it at the factory before they put the heel cap on. Now those 50 swipes never really touched the very center of the end of the heel. So I'll chisel off that 4 or 5 millimeter section and take a look at the body. Now some guitars, the body's completely flat where the dovetail or where the heel meets the body, and some have a radius to them. So before I even do the sandpaper pulls with the neck on the body, I want to take a look at the body. The body's flat. The length of the heel, it might scoop down a little bit at the ends, very end of the neck heel where the heel cap is. But here, you'll see it's not flat. So I can go ahead and chisel off or sand off the middle area. We'll make a elliptical or slight radius here, which is perfectly fine because the sandpaper pulls won't hit the center of it either, and it kind of gives me a head start, believe it or not. Thinking 2 steps ahead here. You want to always look at the big picture. Even though we're really focusing on one thing at a time, I'm still keeping the big picture compartmentalized somewhere in my brain. This is the last little thing I'll do before we string it back up. And I can string it up without putting in shims and without putting any glue in the joint because of my Propper's Guitar Workstation jig, little setup I have. I'll use a piece of thermoplastic and I'll mold it to the bottom of this heel, and I'll be able to put firm pressure on it with the scissor jack while I string it up and test everything out. I do about 10 sandpaper pulls per side. Now, all that lacquer retarder that I put on there before I pulled the neck, it does leave the lacquer a little wipey or, I don't know, bumpy. So I went over it with some 2000 grit wet sandpaper and some Meguiar's Ultra Cut compound, and it looks like that's going to do the job.
Can you see that white spot? This white spot right here. That's blushing. That's what they call lacquer blushing. It's from the hot steam shooting out the side when I was steaming over here. It was shooting out the edge and it was hitting that area. So there's a special little thing, someone told me, a new little trick to get rid of that. Pumice. I've always used polishing compound, which probably has pumice in it, but let's just try some raw pumice on here, just dry, no wet stuff. Now this might leave scratches, which is fine because I can always run the polishing compound right over top, right behind this. Kind of chase behind it. I'll be damned, I've never seen anything work that good in my life. I'm getting ready to put the neck on it, so that's why I've got it in this jig. I'm going to tighten these down. Hold the body in place. I'll stick the neck on there with one clamp. Let's see if we can get some better lighting here on this pumiced area. So the pumice left a bit of a haze. It wasn't even like scratch marks. But I bet you this polishing compound get it right out. Make it super shiny again. Like brand new almost. So that's what you do, guys. If you ever get blushing, don't be afraid of the blushing. I would rather shoot a little steam in there and deal with the blushing than let those electric heaters sit on there for an hour and cause the lacquer to just be completely ruined. So I've installed that bracket on the wall, and that goes through into the studs with some like 6-inch lag bolts. Once I tighten the workstation down, man, I could stand on it over here. It is sturdy. Now we can put the neck on her. Now see over here, I want to remove this headstock support because I don't want that to influence the action as I'm stringing up the guitar. I want it to be free floating out here. There we go. I've got that bracket offset because this clamp kind of gets in the way. So this one's a little closer, that one's offset with a little boom. See that there? That's called Unistrut. You can get that over at Lowe's. So these are all tightened. And we're ready to string her up. Wait, I gotta put the thermoplastic caul in there. I'll take this magnetic scissor jack right here, open it up, and push it right up against the heel. I usually use a caul. I don't know if I have one that fits this. I think the one from the LG3 might work. Here's the one from the LG3. Seems to work just fine. Yeah, that'll hold that little portion of the heel right up against the side. And then the strings, you'll see what kind of action we get. I'm going to put a couple shims down in the saddle slot to simulate a taller saddle. Well, I did that, and the saddle was leaning forward, and the slot just wasn't deep enough for the new taller saddle height that I want to get. So here we go with the saddle routing jig and an 1/8 inch upcut bit in the Dremel with the Dremel router base. I'm going to try to move the base side saddle slot back a skosh because it was a little too far forward, and we want to get this slot so that we can have a little better intonation anyways while we're at it. And the wider saddle will add a little more stability. There's a lot of tension going across all 12 strings. There it is. Yeah, buddy. That's a pretty deep and wide slot. Now I got to make a saddle for her and string it back up. Okay, I just made that. And I put the outer edges on just to kind of see the string alignment at the fretboard edges, which is great. I can also check the string action here at the 12th fret, even though it's not all the way up to tension. I can tell you, it's 6/64 on the bass and 5/64 on the treble, which would be perfect, but I know that when I put the string tension on there, it's going to change. So I'm going to go ahead and just shave off a 32nd of an inch right now before I go putting all the other strings on it. I'll give her a shave. And boy, this sucker's in there. She's tight. Remember that Cheap Trick song? She's tight, she's tight. Alright. Got her. Shave this down a little bit.
I think even though I've got I'm measuring an action of 5/64 and 4/64, I can still put this straight edge here, and it kind of hits the top of the bridge still, just barely, but it does. So I'm gonna shave off a little bit more, and maybe commit after I do that again. I'll string it up again. I might do this a couple times. It takes a lot of time. Okay, now I did take off quite a bit of material off the heel and changed the angle and did some sandpaper pulls with the neck on the body and married up the heel cheeks and the joint pretty good. I'm going to jam some of this hot hide glue down in between that relief cut that I made at the bottom of the dovetail, in between the fretboard extension and the dovetail, and get that to glue back together as I press it in. I didn't heat up the neck or the neck block. I just figure I'm going to work real fast. We're in a pretty warm shop. It's about 73 degrees up here. I'll slather a little bit of this HHG on the female portion of the dovetail. I filled in those holes with black glue boost. Those, I don't know if you noticed those big holes that were going through the dovetail. It was like they reset the neck at the factory before they put the heel cap on it. I thought it would be a good idea to fill those in while the neck was off. Make for a better tone transfer. Got all those excess holes down in there. Blue boost to the rescue! Maybe the next time someone takes this neck off, the glue boost will hold up. I'll hold the neck on the body with this bar clamp, and I'll use the thermoplastic caul and the magnetic scissor jack to press the bottom of the heel right up against the body. And we'll let it set overnight. Let it set overnight. If you ever wonder what all that noise was, it was that pot of water boiling. So now it's time to reinstall the 14th and 15th fret. I'll have to get that gooey glue off of them. I'll use that synthetic glue in the fret slots, which sucks. I also need to put the radius back into the fret as it flattened out when I pulled it. It was almost dead flat. So I'll go for a 12-inch radius right here. These are my fret pliers, and I'm holding them in the total vise. I'll try to clean it off a little more with some simple green all-purpose cleaner on a toothbrush. Old toothbrush. Fresh and so clean. Fresh and so clean, clean. Alright, 14th fret installed. 15th fret is next. I'll use a little bit of the brown liquid hide glue, Franklin Tight Bond liquid hide glue. I use my dead blow fretting hammer. I'll seat that fret. Sometimes the fret will pop up out of the slot, and you can come back 10-15 minutes later and tap it again and it stays down. Almost ready to string her up. Tune it back up to pitch. I've got the strings on. Got a little bit of polishing to do. I'll also run a little lacquer on a paintbrush around the entire joint. Let's just get some of this guck off of here. It shines up nice. Appreciate you guys hanging around to the end. This one seemed really easy to me, I guess, but what I'm trying to say is don't fear the guild. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. Actually, there's so much shit that could go wrong with a job like this. It's crazy. So be prepared to have to refinish the whole thing, because this time I got lucky. I mean, the finish looks great. And I haven't even really finished polishing it yet, but I'm happy. I've got 5/64 action on the bass side and 4/64, maybe even like 3.5 64ths on the treble side. It's really effortless to play this now. Let's take a look how bad that broken neck looks up close, because it'll give you an idea of what could go wrong.